So yesterday, in an interview with the Financial Times, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin acknowledged that his previously declared August deadline for tax reform is, quote, not realistic at this point. So now we have to wonder if it happens at all, particularly with all the factions within the GOP going on the attack against their fellow party members. Now, earlier this month, Club for Growth singled out moderate Republicans for backing the Ryan plan, while pro-Trump America's First Priorities is rewarding several House Republicans for that very same support. So how can the president win with this kind of a Donnybrook? Here to discuss on both sides, Katrina Pierson and Andy Roth. Katrina, let me start with you. Your organization is the first spend for you guys, $3 million. More of an attaboy kind of thing for those who back President Trump. Not on the offensive, although I read that you guys are keeping all options open. How are you going to win when Republican groups, conservative groups are spending money to attack each other?
Well, the narrative seems to be something that you've reiterated, is that was either or. And America's First Policies has not done that. We have not gone out there and championed those who were in support of this bill. You'll notice many of these members had no position on this bill or did not take a position at all. What we are doing is simply supporting those Republicans who have in the past and are currently supporting the president's agenda, which happens to include repealing and replacing Obamacare.
On the other hand, though, Andy, Club for Growth, you guys spent $1 million to go after moderates who, on your mind, were on the wrong side of the Obamacare repeal. You're spending money, millions of dollars, for those moderates who support border adjustment tax. Your organization is spending millions of dollars, and you're actually going after fellow Republicans. If that's the case, how does your party ever get behind the president to get anything done?
Well, let's be clear. The Club for Growth is not a Republican organization. We're not partisan. What we believe in is good policy. So whenever we see people pushing bad policy, regardless of party affiliation, we want to educate the voters about that. But I do think that your point about health care is important. We should try to avoid what happened on the health care debate when it comes to tax reform. So if we can get rid of this border adjustment tax, I think all of us can lock arms and push a pro-growth agenda on that issue.
Hold on, wait a minute. Are you saying that's the only issue that's stopping health care from being done?
You mean tax reform?
Yeah, okay. I don't want to conflate the two. So that's your only problem with tax reform. Of course, Katrina, President Trump and your organization say, hey, if we do the health care first and we get that $1 trillion as a baseline savings, then we could apply it to deeper and more significant tax reform. Isn't that the logic that you're trying to promote?
Oh, absolutely. And what you do have on the Republican side is you do have individuals holding their party accountable, which is something you haven't seen on the left until recently. And so it's absolutely important to get this done, not just because it's going to help when we get to tax reform, but because this was the #1 Republican agenda for the last 6 years. They've all made this promise to get out there and repeal and replace Obamacare. It hasn't gotten done. And now they're going to come back to the table and try to get it done. It has to be done right, which is exactly why those members who have been very supportive of the president's agenda is thanked, because many congressmen aren't thanked. As you know, Charles, there's always the negative, hardly the positive, and we seek to reconcile that. You know, it's
interesting, Annie. I just want to point out we've got that vote going on today in Georgia. Club for Growth backs Bob Gray. 45 committee, which is Sheldon Adelson and Tim Ricketts, a lot of bucks there, spent money against Bob Gray. So even though I know that you're saying that you guys aren't a Republican organization, you do tend to run in conservative circles, and ultimately you even back President Trump for the White House. Do you see where this is all going?
Well, I hope it goes in a good direction. Like Katrina said, I think that there's still a lot of hope left in the health care reform bill. And if we can pass that, if we can get all on the same team, then let's move to tax reform. But if we do go to tax reform, let's have some unity before a bill is released rather than after, so that we can all lock arms and push for a bill before we have the debate.
Katrina,
I agree. Everything has to be done before, and that's what's really important, because there have been so many factions, Charles, as you know, for many years. And that's why it's important to have unity at the top, so that it can trickle down to the bottom.
Well, maybe everyone could put away the checkbooks and just decide to get together somewhere in a hotel lobby and figure it all out, because
that may work too.
The clock is ticking. Guys, thank you both very much. Appreciate it. Nice seeing you, Katrina.